for another Tool Time Tuesday. I'm Melissa Muir. In several videos, I have shown how to use the Pepe Tools Superior Ring Bender. Showed you how to make things like spoon rings and bracelets, and today I'm going to show you a very simple pair of earrings. I call them kind of an onion shape earring. So I'll show you really quickly how to make these. Enjoy! To create this pair of earrings, we're just going to use a couple of very simple tools. So I have here the two dies that I'm going to be using to shape the earring itself, and then of course we've got the ear wires. So I'm using a 20mm round peg and the 60-degree triangular or diamond shaped peg in the Superior Ring Bender for Pepe Tools. In addition, I have just a few little things. So I've got some little 3mm beads. I have a couple of dangles. I'm going to be using 3 inches of 20 gauge wire, and then I also have an 1.25 inch 20 gauge wire that will then become the ear wire itself. I will use, and obviously I don't have showing here like my cutters, but I have round nose. This is a very fine pair of needle nose pliers. And then I also have kind of these wrap and tap bail making pliers, and that's going to help me finesse any shape that I need once I get everything kind of shaped and into position after I've attached everything. So let me show you really quickly how I make these. Here I have the ring bender set up into my vise. You just open up the jaws and it clamps in nice and tight. First thing I'm going to do is I want to put that bend in at the bottom of the earring. So I'm going to install the 60-degree diamond bit here, or former. And I like to bring this down before I have any of my metal here, just to make sure everything is aligned properly. Pull this back. Next thing I need to do is I need to kind of find the center of my wire. Now you'll see that this already has a curve to that, and that is because I have not done anything to it. It's just right off of the coil itself. And I'll use that to my advantage. So by taking this in my thumb and forefinger, I'm just going to pinch a little bit, and that is naturally going to give me approximately my center point. So with that, then I can line this up inside of the bender here. And once I like that position, I'm going to come in and close this down. Now, I can see that I wasn't quite centered, and that's not going to be an issue because I know that I'm going to have to cut down one of the sides a little bit anyway. And that was kind of expected. So that's kind of why I started with 3 inches rather than maybe 2 3/4 or whatever else. So now that I've got this pinched tight in here, and I'm not going to squeeze too hard because I don't want to damage the wire, I just want to form it. I'm going to kind of pull this out just a little bit. And I have found that I tend to pull a little bit more in one direction than the other, so that when I pull this out, they're not identical. So what I like to do is flip this over, put it back in here, and again, just kind of stretch it out. And that helps me to make sure that I have more of a uniform bend in here as far as with the arms of this coming out. So I'll repeat that process for the second ear wire. So again, I'm just going to give this a little bit of a bend to get me kind of into that center. Put it in, hold it out, pull these out a little bit, flip it over, and I'm going to do the same kind of thing here. And that's how we get the point in there. Now, if you would like, you can take flat nose or chain nose pliers and just make sure everything is nice and tight the way that you want it. So maybe you decide that you want to have something come out just a little bit more. It's up to you how you do that. But at this point, I'm ready to swap out the bender, former, and die. So here's our post, and here's the former. And again, you can go ahead and close this down just to ensure that you have the right thing set up in here. So now I have this little bend in here. I do not want to put that bend in here and then close this down. Otherwise, I'm going to miss or deform or misalign that. So what I like to do is I like to take this so that that little bend of my wire right here kind of lines up with this first bend with the former. And then what will happen is it's just going to create, it's just going to kind of nestle right up against that. And I'm going to bring this around until I have this formed all the way around. Now we're not going to leave that. We will actually be adjusting this, but it's a good start. So I'm going to flip this over, again, position it, and bring all of that around. So now I have kind of this little onion shape, and that's what we're after. So just to show you one more time, I'm going to nestle that in there. Bring this in here again. Not quite there. There we go. Okay. So now we have our two pieces. Now that I have the shape of this, the first thing I need to do is start putting my different decorations on here. If you don't do this now, then you're not going to be able to later unless it has a very large hole for it to get in. So I'll just kind of open this. I like to start by putting whatever I'm going to do in the center. So in this case, it's that little ball dangle. Now these I got from Halstead Beads. They have so many cute ones. They had some different drops and everything like that. Very, very easy to use in your designs. Now these little tiny beads are very hard to see because they are only 3 millimeters, and they are also somewhat difficult to put on to an earring. Well, at least on a video they are when you're recording. Of course. There it goes. All right. So I have 2 on one side, and now I'm going to put 2 on the other side. Once I have my beads on here, I also need to verify that I'm pretty even as far as both sides of my ear wires. Now one has a little bit more of a curve than the other, but I can see that this one is just a little bit longer. So I'll use my trimmers or clippers, whatever, to cut that down just a little bit. It didn't need to be a whole lot. The next thing that needs to happen is I need to create the loops that are then going to become where we hold our ear wire into place. So we have 2 of them on each side. So I'm going to take my round nose pliers, and I want to make this little loop pretty small. It doesn't need to be big at all. So what I'm going to do is work towards the tip of my pliers here. I'm just going to bend this around. Okay, and just create a small little P is all that I need. Now, just like I would on an eye pin, I'm going to break the neck of that just a little bit so that it looks a little more balanced. Take the time to make that look nice. That's what will set your work apart. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Okay, so now that I have these, you'll notice that they kind of come in and they just point right to each other. And that's not what I need. I need to have them where they kind of sit up, so that way when I put an ear wire or whatever else into it, it will lay right. So I just take my flat nose pliers or chain nose, whatever, and I'm going to cover that entire thing right there. And then just wherever I want that bend, just come in and put that in there. So when I bring these together, see how they kind of face each other? That's what we want to have. So the next thing then that I need to do is I need to create the ear wire itself. Now I've already gone through and filed down one end of this so that it makes it so it's pretty comfortable going into the ear. And you want to make sure you do that, whether you do it before you make the ear wire or afterwards. You want to make sure that you file that down. We don't want to do what we call lethal jewelry. So again, I'm just going to put a little P into this. But this time, instead of breaking the neck on this one, I'm going to leave it just as is, a little P. Okay, and that is going to make it so that it flows really nice into the ear wire. Now, if you have any of these wrap and taps, there's a couple different sizes and they're great. This one you're going to see is a little bit large, but I wanted to show you anyway what I would do if I had something but it was a little too big. So what I do is I like to position this So it is inside the jaws. And see how that P kind of hangs down? And then I'm just going to take my wire and bend it around here. And I can see while I'm doing this, this is not big enough or long enough for me to use that as the ear wire on this size. So what has to happen is either one, I need a longer piece of wire, which my earring really doesn't need, or I need to tighten up this little arch here. So what I'm going to do is either use a smaller pair of those wrap and tap pliers, or I can use something like a pen, a marker, whatever. So again, I'm just going to hold this onto here and wrap it down and around so that it tightens up that arch for me. Now, the next thing that I need to do, because that would be kind of difficult to put into my ear or hold onto the ear wire because it just comes straight down. So again, I'm going to use my flat nose or chain nose pliers, and I'm just going to give just a little bit of a bend here. I find that it has to come out almost 90 degrees. So now we have our little ear wire. I'm going to open up this loop right here. So you know, like jump rings, you don't want to pull it out or anything. You want to just kind of twist this open. So you guys can see that maybe a little bit. Twist that open. And then I'm going to insert my earring, close up that ring, and now comes a little bit of finessing. So what I'm going to do is just hook that in. Now this one actually worked out beautifully. See how nicely and easily that swings? And if I look here, it comes through okay, but it's going to be easy to slip out. So one of two things need to happen. And the first one I'm going to do is I'm going to increase the angle of that just a little bit, just so that it comes out a little bit more flat or straight, so that when it comes into here, it doesn't slip off quite as easily. Looks like it needs just a little bit more. There we go. Now, if I find that this still slips out easily, what I can do is tighten up this little throat here. I'm just going to kind of pinch that closed a little bit. Now there's some spring back happening here, which is good. Now if you see this, it doesn't swing as easily. So I need to release that just a little bit. There we go. So you want to have that motion. And now I have my earring. If you'd like to know more about the Superior Ring Bender or any of the other line of tools from Pepe Tools, make sure you come and see me in Tucson at the Gem Show. I will be having a booth where I will have tons of demos. I will have kits and classes offered as well. So come and visit me at Colors of the Stone and the To Be True Blue. I'll be in booth 180 starting on January 27th. Hope to see you there.